What's good, America? It's your man, Big Flo, coming to you from a cold, cold, cold February day. Um, Wishing I was in a different part of the country right now, but I'm stuck in Chicago, shoveling out. Hopefully, you guys already cleared your walkway. It didn't fare too badly. Anyway, bringing a new edition of the Big Flow Show to you today. Got a special guest. A lot of people who watch have been requesting a guest like this. I wanted to bring him to you. This guy is the director of football recruiting for 24/7 Sports. I've had the pleasure of knowing him for probably about a year now. A great individual. Please welcome Steve Wiltfong. What's up, Steve?
Hey, what's going on, Reggie? How we doing?
I don't know if you can hear back in backstage, but I'm cold. It was cold today. I'm suffering. I had to take a knee after after that shovel. I let it go a little too long, So I got
Man,
about
I
3
like
days
your
worth.
background here. I need to kind of like maneuver mine around here, give myself a little bit better of a
Get
look.
yourself a little bit more sexiness. Yeah, it started. This is a slow grind, man. Biggie came a little bit later. Got the Notre Dame stuff, got the helmets. Sometimes I got to fight off the wife. She tries to put little decorations in there, put a little touch on the set, but we try to get it right. So, talk to me, man. So you're the director of football recruiting for 24/7 Sports. So, to me, basically, you got all the writers kind of roll up underneath you, but you write as well. Talk to me how you got into this. How did you become a sports writer for youth
Oh
sports?
man, I remember telling my third grade teacher I wanted to be an author.
Fantastic.
So I mean, I always had an affinity towards reading and writing, and I don't know. So I went to high school. I'm from South Bend. I'm a South Bend native. I went to high school with a girl whose father was the Notre Dame beat writer for the South Bend Tribune, and I remember saying, "Hey, I want to go to work with your dad one day." So um, he let me come to the South Bend Tribune a couple times, and when I graduated from high school in August of 2000, they actually had a part-time. Or I graduated from high school in June of 2000. They had a part-time position open in August of 2000, answering the phones in the sports department, typing up high school football box scores and stuff like that. So I got that job. I rolled up for my job interview in my homecoming suit. I had hair then.
Hey, you got to use it, man, before that thing has to be turned in. You got to
And
get
I
your
had
buzz on
hair
it.
then. I had Reggie. I had blonde hair, dyed blonde hair, and a goatee. I look like a Steiner brother.
No
Uh,
doubt.
from the WWF,
I
WC, whatever it was back in the day. Um,
WWE, I believe, or maybe
but I rolled
WWF.
into my interview with the blonde hair, the goatee, and my homecoming suit, but got the
Did you
job.
have the bow tie and the cover? Did you have to do cover buns? I'm a little older than you. I don't know. We had
No,
cover buns.
the suit was from Back Rack. Do you remember Back Rack?
For sure, no doubt.
Yeah, I think they went out of business, but
Renting bad suits.
it was a baggy suit. But I don't think anyone else wore a suit to that interview because it was my first ever like real job
Yeah, there's dudes
interview.
with their hats backwards and their
Uh,
t-shirt off,
yeah, man. I
pen and
mean, the
paper.
job paid $8.50 an hour, but I mean, at that point in my life, I was like, "Oh, this is a job at the South Bend Tribune, so I need to look professional for it." So I wore my suit, and I
Mhm.
guarantee everyone else that interviewed wore jeans and a regular shirt, which I don't know if that was the difference or what. But so I
Hey,
got that job just answering the phone in the sports department at the South Bend Tribune, which eventually led to me covering high school sports. And my first ever byline was a high school volleyball match. I was supposed to go to IU and Indiana University and party with some friends that weekend, but they needed me to cover a volleyball match, and I was like, I'm there.
that's
So
cool.
I covered volleyball instead of going down to Bloomington to drink some beers with some friends.
Plenty of time for that later.
Probably
Right?
kept me
Plenty of
out of
time.
trouble too because I wasn't 21 yet. But
Uh-oh.
anyway, um, long story short, newspapers were big, man. This is 20 years ago, right? And so you
Mhm.
got Notre Dame. You played at
I know.
Notre
So the
Dame.
kids watching this show, newspaper is a thing. It's got paper and ink all over it, and like they used to throw it on. I know you probably don't know what that is anymore, but
Yeah, man. But the sports department at Notre, I was fortunate that the sports department at Notre in South Bend was extra big because of Notre Dame athletics, right? And
mhm.
the interest that Notre Dame brings. They had their own magazine called Irish Sports Report. I was also fortunate enough to be at the South Bend Tribune when there was a lot of talent there David Hall was the columnist. He's now in Chicago doing his
Mhm.
thing all over the radio, but he covered the Bears for the Chicago Tribune and then was a Chicago Tribune columnist. But anyway, there was this dude, Eric Hansen, was running Irish Sports Report. He's still the Notre Dame beat writer for the Southland Tribune to this day. But his number two was a dude by the name of Vaughn McClure, who went on to do some big things in the industry. Vaughn actually passed away this past year, but
Terrible news.
he covered the Falcons for ESPN when he passed. But I used to ask those dudes every day if there was something I could do. The one thing I could ever get, the advice that I could give anyone is network, and be available.
And that goes for more than just your profession, by the way. For people out there going off to college, network. It's the most important thing you could ever do.
No question. If you're playing college sports and you're going to a place, you're going to a Notre Dame or a Northwestern or really anywhere. Meet some people that don't play football, or meet some people that don't play the sport you're playing, because you just never know what that could lead to when you're grown and 35 to 40 years old,
So all the kids watching this show that I've talked to, I promise I did not tell him to say that, but you'll know that I've told you that 1,000,000 times, that you got to go and get outside while you're relevant playing football. You got to get outside that locker room, and you got to start meeting people while you're relevant. Because once you leave that locker room, every year that you're out of the locker room, that starts to dissipate. It's not as important, but while you're there, people really want to meet you and know you. So
people want to know athletes, and people want to hang with you, and so you can take advantage. And all you got to do is be a nice person, be accountable, man, and it'll lead to some nice things for you on and off the field. But anyway, I was asking those guys at Irish Sports Report every day if I could do something, because I didn't want to just be answering the phone and covering high school volleyball, and that led to high school football and all that. But finally, Vaughn McClure figured out they had these things called Olympic capsules that they would summarize how Notre Dame's Olympic sports were doing each week or each month, however often it was publishing, depending on the time of year, weekly during football, monthly not during football. And Vaughn, he was busy covering football and basketball, but the Olympic capsules were on his plate. He figured out, man, I don't got to do these Olympic capsules when Steve can do these Olympic capsules.
I got a guy.
Now, I was fired up to do those Olympic capsules, how men and women's soccer do, and volleyball and track and baseball and whatnot. And that actually led to them then saying, all right, well, I don't need to write the story on the star soccer player. Notre Dame's winning the national championship in women's soccer. Or I don't need to write the story on the Notre Dame women's basketball player. They're winning a national championship in that too, by the way. So that I picked those bylines up. And I wrote those stories, which then led to me getting out to Notre Dame football practices and interviewing the third string wideout for a story for their Irish Sports Report magazine that the diehards wanted to read about. And I was, next thing you know, I'm in the press box on game day. Back then, you had to type up all the stats. You had to type up all the lineups to get them into your newspaper. It wasn't a copy and paste deal.
Yeah.
This is still 18 years ago.
Were you keeping your own stat when you were during the game, or did you get that?
No, they would do that for you. Thankfully, we wasn't that stone age, but I had to get, the Arnaz Battles, the Notre Dame's quarterbacks, passing numbers from the box score to the Southland Tribune, or whoever, right? So I was doing all those tasks that were, tedious. You didn't get your name on it, but I was in the press box rubbing elbows with a lot of people on the Notre Dame beat, right? So Scout.com was starting to grow. Rivals was starting to grow back then. And the guy who ran Notre Dame's scout site was a guy by the name of Mike Frank, who runs a company. It was called Irish Eyes at the time. Now it's called Irish Sports Daily for you Notre Dame diehards, which is an independent site. But he was under the Scout umbrella. And he, I met him on the beat, just out there rubbing elbows with people, and he offered me a full-time position for, at the time, $24,000 a year.
You said, let's go,
which
24.
which beats I was probably up to $9 an hour at the South Bend Tribune at that
Let's
point.
go.
I mean, I was working at Smoky Bones Restaurant and the South Bend Tribune.
Mm-hmm.
I was living in an apartment, and working multiple jobs. So I was in the weeds, but they offered me that job, salary, to come over and cover the Notre Dame, to be their lead beat writer. So I get over there, and now I'm competing. Compete's not even the right word, but I'm writing alongside the Eric Hansons of the world, these great writers. And I realize that no one's really reading my stories on Irish Eyes. That's just filler for people. They're there for the recruiting news.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, man, the recruiting coverage is getting a lot more eyeballs over here than the team coverage. I didn't even really recognize recruiting. Still wasn't really on my radar until I took that job at Irish Eyes. But then I was like, man, I need to. The fire is over here. I'm over here, and I need to be in the fire. So I was like, Mike, let me do some recruiting stories here too. I can work it in. And he said, cool. Now, back then, nobody could write at the Rivals or Scout. No, these guys were all just diehard fans of their teams, and they were accumulating information, but they couldn't write. And not that I'm like a great writer or anything, but man, I had some good training at the South Bend Tribune, and I was light years above everybody else. In that moment, in that window of time, and that helped me write better stories on recruits, which helped me get in with recruits. And I would say instant, man, I hit the ground, and I had that work ethic. I hit the ground running on that beat, and thanks to Mike Frank, it was thanks to Eric Hansen and Vaughn McClure at the South Bend Tribune for giving me a break. Then thanks to Mike Frank for giving me a break covering recruiting. I was able to take that and run with it. And Mike and I had a really good run for a while, which he then ended up going over to ESPN with his company. And at ESPN, they also gave me a little bit of opportunity to write about some guys at Notre Dame outside of the Notre Dame market. 24/7 Sports started 11 years ago. I was the third hire.
Now, did you say that was a transition from Scout, how it became 24/7 Sports, or was that a transition from Scout.com? Did that become 24/7 Sports, or was that
a transition for me? I mean, 24/7 Sports was a brand new company.
Okay, I was wondering if because Scout's gone, right?
Scout's gone. 24/7 Sports purchased Scout.
Okay, that's where I was getting.
And they're now with us. But Scout was really big at one point. Didn't have great leadership at the super top, and so they kind of, the company just wasn't able to. It still had a lot of great workers, but at the end of the day, you need someone balancing a budget behind the scenes.
You had mentioned something a second ago about people weren't great writers that were there. And so in my day there was in Chicago people, Taylor Bell. I mean, he was the end all be all. Then you had Tom Lemming, right? He was like kind of the national guy that would do something. There really wasn't anybody else. You Field and Stream would write some stuff every once in a while, or Street and Smith, maybe I think I got that wrong. Field and Stream. Street and Smith would write some stuff, but there really wasn't any kind of young upcomers. But in the internet comes along and social media or whatever, everybody and their mom can be a writer. So you got Bleacher Report, you've got Barstool, you've got all these different things that you just sometimes you wonder. And as we know, we met because my son is a recruit that sometimes some of these writers will call up and talk to me or do whatever, and it's like a kid, it's like a college kid or a high school kid. It's not really like some traditional journalist or whatever. And sometimes, to your point, when you read some of these stories, not the ones specifically about my son, but the ones that I've read, and I'm like, man, there's typos in here. This is poorly written. They just there's difference. Writing reporting has taken. I mean, hell, I picked up a podcast, and now here I am, quote unquote, part of what you can call media, right? I decided to post this out. People can do it with no training. How do you feel kind of that transition from a guy that kind of came up through the traditional ranks and seeing it, and now pretty much anybody has a voice if they just want to create a Twitter page or they want to create some sort of a nice logo? You can hide behind that logo and seem like you're an expert. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm cool with anyone having an opportunity to, do what they want to do or what motivates them or what inspires them, and the audience will separate who's good and who's not, or who's a true insight. But the beauty of the internet and these platforms is it allows people to go out and try and reach their dreams or goals, or do something that excites them, and then we'll see where the chips fall. There's a lot of good writers in this industry now. I'm talking like 15 years ago, like and I'm thinking you brought up like Tom Lemming's a pioneer. Like there's pioneers in the recruiting game that like 24/7 Sports and our companies. Who knows where we are at if you don't have those pioneers with their magazines and their initial rankings and stuff, bringing interest, and the interest in college football has just continued to grow. But they kind of created that lane in recruiting, and we've just been able to take the baton and run with it.
Keep it moving.
And obviously, some of those guys are still doing their thing. But I think 24/7 Sports, the traffic on the internet shows that we're clearly the go-to
Absolutely
place, the go-to place for people.
I like your site the best because of the way that you like it's more it leads to more information. So obviously Rivals and yourself, you guys are the two sites that people are going to go to find out. ESPN seems like they just kind of come in late to the game and just repurpose information, but like you guys seem to actually be writing the stories and then kind of tracking. But then I like how in your site you can go, and if this kid has an offer, you can click on that and like go get more information, because you want to know first the question you have: if a kid has an offer, who else has got an offer? Boom, you can see it from your site. You can see how many people they have commits, and so I like that. I think you guys have a great site there. So,
well, I appreciate that, man. We got so many talented people that work here, and so many people that care about it. And from our team site writers to our regional guys to our national guys, it's just a lot of quality people working hard and with good connections and good writers and good work ethics. We started 11 years ago, man. We weren't even a site when I got hired, and we had zero clicks at that point.
So you're day one. You're day one.
Yeah. And so,
how many writers you guys have now?
Oh man, I couldn't tell you. We're a pretty big company now.
Yeah.
But I started as the Midwest guy, but then we quickly realized that that's not the way to do this job. Like the readers, the bulk of the readers, not to say that we don't cover some of the other programs, because we cover everybody, but like we kind of changed. Like we're not going to just you're not going to just be a Midwest analyst. It doesn't make sense. Like the readers care most about Ohio State, Penn State, Notre Dame, Michigan, and Michigan State. So we're going to focus on that. We're not going to focus on, the kid that's going to go play at a group of 5 or something. We're going to put all your energy into the more prominent prospects. We're not going to waste as much time in the other lanes, and so that's kind of the way I attack that, and basically became a Big Ten reporter instead of a Midwest analyst, and then my role grew from there, and now I cover the country, which is basically being on top of the top storylines for our top rated recruits and our biggest markets, which are the obvious biggest programs.
So how do you get started when it comes to, like, you said top rated recruits or whatever, and kind of filter? I haven't really noticed, the delineation between Power 5, Group 5, or whatever. I feel like, obviously Power 5 gets the most, but then I felt like I've seen other ones too. But how do you get started when you're trying to evaluate people? Do you wait until you kind of see who comes on top? Are you trying to find that kid early? What's your strategy?
No, we'd love to find kids early. Like we're working on our 2022 rankings now. We'd like to rank a kid higher than his offer list shows early on, so then we can point to it later and say, yeah, we expected this young man to get these offers. And we have guys that just pour over film, and that's kind of what their deal is. I'm a blend. I'm a blend between gathering news and watching film. Probably lean more towards the news gathering part, but I certainly, over the course of a year, have watched all the film of our top guys and have seen a lot of them in camp settings. And so, we have a staff across the country that's going to games and wherever they live and seeing kids play full games, maybe more than once. And so
get your Parker ready, because it looks like we're starting in a couple weeks in Chicago.
Man, I know. Our local guys and our team guys are sniffing out young guys early and passing them along and saying, hey, this is a sophomore that's having a big year for powerhouse high in this state or what have you, and so guys are getting on our radar through that. But it starts with film,
Mhm.
live evals, camp setting evals, multi-sport. Multi-sport is so big because you know it just shows how natural of an athlete you are. And if you don't play multiple sports, it's just kind of a question why. Because you're in high
Mhm.
school, you're in school with your best friends. Why wouldn't you want to go play basketball with them? Why wouldn't you want to wrestle or play baseball or run track? I mean, like,
So that, I'm glad you brought that subject up. So I look at that the way I look at multi-sport athletes. I know Urban Meyer said a long time ago he looks for the guy who's a multi-sport athlete, and I read into that a couple ways. I said, first of all, most people's kids aren't going to be good, talented enough to play for an Urban Meyer team, right? He's getting the top 1% of great athletes there. So, but my philosophy is kind of like, okay, well, if you're trying to play, if your prize is college and you want to make it there, obviously, if you're a guy that can go to Ohio State, and you can play baseball, basketball, and football, which means what? That you're not training for any of those sports outside the season very much because you're playing a sport, and you can still excel. I think that Urban Meyer probably looks at that and says, well, gosh, if I got this guy and he played basketball and baseball and he still was a monster on the football field, imagine what will happen if he gets to specialize and I can actually train him year round. That's kind of what I look behind that statement. But a lot of these kids, I think, I look at and say, well, if you don't ever specialize, like, when are you training to get better? You're just a natural athlete going out there. If you're a lineman, when are you going to get bigger? If you're a receiver, when are you going to get faster? When are you going to get, bigger? If you're, quarterbacks, whatever, you got to work on your throwing, your technique. Do you think that people look beyond kind of the lack of polish and just at the pure athleticism if you're a multi-sport athlete?
well, I think that if you're a multi-sport athlete, that doesn't mean that your focus still isn't football. It just means that it's not your whole world. But
Hmm.
I mean, like, I look at it as, well, maybe you're a varsity basketball player and the only time you really spend with basketball is during the season, but all your training and
True.
lifting is with the purpose of football long term. I just think that multi-sport strengthens muscles.
True.
It does a lot for your body. I think it helps keep you healthier
Hmm.
because it strengthens muscles that maybe you don't particularly use in one sport, but you're using them more in another. I think it helps with your competitive edge. I think it helps with you not getting burnt out. I think there's a ton of value, and I think there's a lot. I mean, if you look up and down the MAC rosters, I think you'll see a lot of kids that played multiple sports. Man, these are just
Hmm.
guys that roll out. A Division One athlete, whether he's playing at Ohio State or Ohio U, those guys are still probably king of the block where they came from,
No
and
doubt. Yeah.
you know what I mean.
That's a
And
good point to bring out. These guys are going. Even some of these D3 monsters, they killed it in high school. You know
and,
what I mean? Like, they
and
still
really,
monsters.
like, the difference between Group of Five and Power Five, Reggie, is point of attack play.
Hmm.
It's hard to find those big bodies.
Yep.
Um, there's only so many to go around. So the big schools, the Power Fives gobble them up. But there's a ton of kids that can run. There's a
Hmm.
ton of kids that can change direction and flip their hips. So receivers, running backs, DBs, there's no shortage, and so you can even quarterbacks. There's a ton of good quarterbacks out there that can make things happen. And so the biggest difference between Group of Five and Power Five programs historically is really point of attack play and depth at the point of attack. So those receivers that are playing at Toledo or Boise State or San Jose State, I bet a lot of them could be impact players in the Big 12 or Big 10 and whatnot. It just, obviously you have your freaks, but, there's a lot of kids that can run and catch and change direction and make people miss.
So when you say point of attack, like, let's elaborate on that. Take a receiver, for instance, a guy who's going to end up at Miami of Ohio as opposed to Ohio, well, not say Ohio State, but, like, a Big Ten school. You're saying that's a guy who can catch that 50-50 ball a little bit better than the other guy, or is that a guy that can make a guy miss, or is that a guy who can run somebody over? What are you saying that point of attack specifically?
Well, point of attack is your O line and your D line, right?
Oh, I
So,
see what you mean. Okay.
yeah. So those are your guys that are 6'5", 6'6" with length, or
Hmm.
or your
Okay.
your
So the
six
box
five
guys,
pass
what I would
rusher,
call a box guy.
or
Yeah.
or your 300 pounder that can move with good feet. not as
Mhm.
many of those dudes walking around Earth as there are your 6'1", 180-pound kid. A lot
Yeah,
more of
you're
those
right.
dudes.
I mean, because like I said, 6'1", 180. I would say when it comes to football, you don't have to be a freak unless you're like a lineman, whatever. You don't have to be a freak. There's a bunch of guys that are 6'1", that are in the high 100s or whatever, walking around the hallway. They don't play sports, so you just got to come out there and want it and have the skills and play for it, the speed and do whatever. To be on the line, you got to be kind of a baby Huey type freaking nature, tall, big, naturally heavy, big handed, big legged guy. So. I see it there. Now, when you're doing your evaluations, how do you compare state to state? Because that got to be the hardest part of the job, right? I mean,
Well, it is, but the good part is now there's so many camps where it's brought together where you can see good on good. That's why, like, if you look at basketball rankings historically, I'm going to guess that a lot of them are pretty accurate because you're going to AAU tournaments and seeing the best players play against the best players multiple
yeah, from
times
time they're young, yeah.
within a setting that's close to what it's going to be in college and in the pros. With football, it's still difficult because it's still a developmental sport. It's the ultimate team sport. And sometimes people's nuts drop at different times, and sometimes they put their mass on at different times. With strength and conditioning, such a big thing. And some college programs have lousy strength and conditioning programs, and some have great. And the difference is shown on Saturday 100%. We are able to now see kids from Chicago compete against kids from Texas in camp settings, and then we're able to see track numbers. And so if you run 10.8 in Illinois,
it's the same 10.8. They get the same, same 10.8 California. Yeah.
So we're able to stack up verified athleticism. If you're a 6'8" high jumper, man, that goes everywhere. You're obviously explosive. If you throw the shot put 60 feet, that goes. If you wrestle in the state finals, you're probably going to be a pretty good wrestler everywhere. Maybe the place you have is different. So there's a lot of ways to measure guys together.
How much does 7-on-7 play a part in what you?
Well, that's the big, that's part of the equation, right? You have the Midwest Boom in Chicago. They take their kids to tournaments all over the country, and you get to see those Illinois kids compete against kids everywhere, and you can kind of see who's making plays consistently and who's not, and who can't separate and who can't get open against the Division I corner. It's real easy to get open against that 5'10", 160-pound kid that's just playing high school football in the Trinity League, but you can't. You're facing a grown man that's got 20 Division I offers at the pylon tournament, man. You're not separating all of a sudden, So now there's ways to
do that.
It's gotten a lot easier. I'm sure it's gotten a lot easier. So if you go back and look at Tom Lemming's rankings from the 90s, it was probably a lot harder for Tom to gauge where a receiver should be, because it's not like they ever went to any of the same venues to showcase their skills.
Tom to this day still puts in a lot of mileage. If you look at his little reports and stuff, he still goes and goes and goes.
He does. But you'll see this kid had 2,000 yards receiving. Yeah, man, he didn't play against any Division I corners. So I want to see what he does against some Division I corners in a different setting.
Right. And because you made a statement earlier about this kid from Powerhouse U or Powerhouse High, and I thought about that. Does that, when it comes to your evaluations and it comes to the college, how important is it where you play, who you play for?
Well, obviously, you get more opportunity if you play for a school that traditionally pumps out prospects, or you're in a city that traditionally pumps out prospects, because college recruiters, when they go on the road, they're going to hit these schools. They're going to go in those areas. So if you're in a place that's not easy to get to, it's a commitment for a college coach to go on the road,
right,
and say, all right, this dude's 2 hours off the beaten path, which really means, like, let's say you live in BFE, Indiana. You got to fly in Indianapolis. You got to go 2 hours to see this young man. Then you got to go 2 hours back the other way. That's 4 hours. You could have spent 4 hours hitting all the high schools in the Indianapolis area. So it's like not every school puts in that kind of time to go out. So there is an advantage, but that doesn't mean that just because you don't go to a big high school, or you don't go to prominent high school that you won't get opportunities because there's blue chippers everywhere. This quarterback, Ty Simpson, who's going to commit next Friday, he's at a school called Westview in Martin, Tennessee. They haven't had a Division I prospect since 1999. He's one of the top quarterback recruits in the country. So,
I hear that, but I say, yeah, you can find the anomalies of the guys who are the best, and you got to whatever. But you can go to the Trinity League in California and just be a dude and get an offer, right? Because
man. But you can. So there's schools that will recruit that league, and there's only a lot of those guys get overrated because of where they're at too, man. So the colleges have to be careful. And
yeah, but it's kind of like people are human, right? You're a writer, and I sell stuff, whatever. But like at the end of the day, we're both human. We try to do our job the best we can, and nothing's perfect. So when I look and see people say, "Oh, well, if you're good enough, they'll find you." If you're Andy Moss, they're gonna find you, right? But if you're that middle of the road guy that just barely letters at one of these schools, you might have to do a little something to help them out, right? You might have to come out and find your way to do it, because these guys are human too. If they come to a school and no one's ever come out of there, and you're playing teams that they haven't heard of, and you look like you're good, and like, I don't know. But if you can take that talent and go put it on the big stage and play in the Chicago Catholic League, you can play against in the DuPage DVC out here in Chicago, or you can go some of these really big things, and then you could do it there. It's like, all right, you're making this job real easy for that recruiter.
Yeah, it goes back to my original point though, Reggie, that like if you are from a small farm town or or you're from an inner city school that doesn't get much foot traffic, just to give two completely different examples.
Yeah.
If you're a Division I football player at a school like those, guaranteed you're playing 3 sports.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not just focusing on one sport. If you go to farm high or inner city high, you're not. You're not. So with that, you're probably balling on Friday, and then you're putting up big numbers in basketball or wrestling. Which means you're advancing in the state tournament. So you're bringing notoriety to your school. You're bringing notoriety to yourself. It's something that college recruiters can say, yeah, man, this kid goes to Winnemac High School. They've never had a football prospect, but he got 3rd in the state wrestling championship, like 225 pounds. Then he turned around and ran track, and he's a linebacker for us. He ran 11.2, through the shot put 50 feet in the same meet. So he's fast.
He's that guy,
right? Yeah. So those guys that go to small schools or smaller places are generally pretty freaky in their own avenue. And so that can even like be a plus for you. And maybe you don't get 40 offers, but you don't need 40 offers.
You only need one, baby.
You just need Iowa to find you.
Yeah.
Or Matt Campbell at Iowa State. Matt Camp, the best linebacker at Iowa State, the Rose kid, he was committed to Ball State. They flipped him, man. Could you imagine? This dude's going to play in the NFL for a long time. Could you imagine him at Ball State? They just won the MAC. They would have loved to have him in their second level. But, Mike, so you just multi-sports, especially if you're at a smaller school or a school that's off the beaten path.
Let's talk about timing in like camps. So when do you think it's too early? I got my philosophy, but I want to hear yours. With camps, when is the time people should start taking their kids to camps, and then when should they stop going to camps?
Well, I think that early on, the purpose should always be, how can I get better at my craft, not recruiting exposure.
Okay.
So anytime you get an opportunity to compete in a setting where there's good coaching and it fits your schedule, go. So if you live in Chicagoland, and you have an 11-year-old, sign them up for the Notre Dame camp for 4 days if you have the tools, or the Illinois camp. And I'm sure you could probably learn a few things at it, to take back to middle school football or ultimately high school. And even early in high school, you can go to camps where there's good coaching, even high school coaching. There's great high school coaches in all these communities, and just become a better player, man.
Well, what about like the regional camps, like the ones where they're pretty much, like North Central College or Northwestern? They have these mega camps, or the what's the one in? I think it's in Tennessee or something.
Right. So Northwestern has a mega camp. North Central College, aren't they a really good football team?
Fantastic football team.
Right. So I guarantee you could go there as a freshman in high school. I guarantee you could go there as a junior in high school and get good coaching. Right. But it's two different we have two different things that are going to combine into one. I don't know if I'm saying this eloquently, but first, like, you're asking me from the standpoint of getting recruited, right? So what I'm saying, like,
purely,
you can't, chances are you're not going to get recruited until you have a big season, whether that's your sophomore year when you break out, maybe you're a breakout freshman player, or you're a breakout sophomore player. So until I break out on Fridays, everything I'm doing as a parent is to put my kid in position to be as good a player as he can be, that he wants to be. You understand? So like everything I'm doing early on is, hey, North Central, man, they got a great college football coaching staff there. I can get my kid in there and learn. Maybe they got a great online coach. I don't know what their specialty is, but like I can get my kid in there and he can learn some fundamentals from them. And then,
but are they really learning in those camps? I mean, when I watch those camps, it just seems like it's a combine, right? It's like they're running some stuff.
These schools all have overnight camps and things like that.
Okay, yeah. So what I'm focusing my mind on is, from a recruiting standpoint, you go to the 1-day camp at North Central. They'll do 3 days. 3 different colleges will be there. Guys are going there. Sometimes they're coming out of 8th grade. They're doing 40s. They're doing I don't know if they do vertical jump, 40s, broad jump, short shuttles, running routes, and doing whatever. Can a kid go out there, lay an egg, and hurt themselves in recruiting, or are they just not going to pay attention if you're not
heard of anyway? It doesn't matter. Like, no one's looking at your 40 if you haven't balled somewhere.
Gotcha. Okay, so they need to be okay. That makes sense. So you're saying go early and get the practice, get
early, get the coaching, find the places where you're going to get good coaching. Don't guess. Like, find places where your money's going to be well spent to get good coaching, and then when you have a good freshman or sophomore year, then it's time to like pivot to the recruiting process. And so if you have a good sophomore year and you don't have any offers yet, you want to go to like a mega camp where you have an opportunity to show your stuff in front of a ton of coaches. Like at the Northwestern mega camp, almost every mid-major school is going to be there. Like, you have a chance now to like show out in front of like 10, 11 people that could give you an opportunity to go to college for no debt. That's like that's initially what you're trying to do. There's tiers, right? But if you don't have any offers, you're just trying to get one. Right before you, and then you can go and try and earn your offers and earn your opportunities. And so those camps, getting on the Midwest Boom 7-on-7 team and going to tournaments where you can show out and get some good press, that will then maybe have a college coach say, the college coaches aren't going to offer you because 24/7 Sports wrote that you were the alpha dog at the Pylon, Illinois. But if you're the alpha dog at Pylon, Illinois, college coaches may say, have we evaluated this young man? Like, what do we think? Do we have any notes on him? No, we don't have any notes on him. Let's get up his game film right now and watch it, And so those kind of camps, those media exposure camps, can help you get on the radar of getting your film watched, who knows where. And then
what if you're a kid, I'm playing devil's advocate here. What if you're a kid that's great on the field, looks great on the field or whatever, but you don't know your 40's not that good. You haven't trained for the 40. Because one thing I argue with some of these parents is say, make sure you train for the 40, because there's no time in your life on a football field you're ever going to get into a 3-point stance before you sprint. You're always going to start standing up. So your kids if they're not track guys, they're not good at that. So they might be fast, but they run a slower 40. But can that kill you at a camp? Is it better off just to say, I'm not going to run a 40 if you know that you're not ready for it?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't run if I'm not ready. I would, once you become a good prospect, I would train for combine things.
That's what I said.
But like it's kind of funny. Like I had a high profile college defensive coordinator once kind of roll his eyes when he was like, man, he's like, I always laugh when I hear people use the word, he's just a combine guy. He knows if he's a football, he's just a combine guy. He goes, man, everybody in the NFL is a combine guy. I want combine guys. I'll figure it out. Obviously I got to be good at football too, but just he's a combine guy. That's important. You got to be athletic to go all the way to the top.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a coach worth your salt, you can coach that up. You give me a guy that can run a 4.4 and he jumps 40 inches and broad jumps 12 feet. I can figure something out. I'll figure out how to use
the young man still got to be physical and make plays on Fridays, but he just always so to your point, like, you got to get ready for combines. Like, A football player has to be ready to perform at combines of all levels, high school, particularly in college. If your goal is the NFL, if you suck at the combine, or you suck at your pro day in that setting, you're not getting drafted, man. You're a free agent. You're a free agent if you can even get into a camp, and then maybe you can still work your way up. But so you got to
nothing substitutes play on the field, but the other stuff can't hurt you.
If proving your athleticism is key, no matter what the position. You know, proving you're flexible, you can bend. I mean, be in yoga, be in all those things, to help your profile. But just the camps in general, like, I would be looking for college camps that can help me become a better player, even when I have offers. So it's like Iowa has. Iowa has fully padded camps, man. You can go out there and bang at Iowa. There's just.
So you think, okay, you hit a point that I was going to go to about when do you stop, right? So, I mean, this is all, I say it's a game, but it is a game. I mean, you're trying to get to the prize, right? And so,
Sure.
As a profession, I'm in sales. So once I get the sale, I stop. They tell you, so stop talking, because you can talk yourself out of the sale too. So when I say you're in trying to get an opportunity to play in a college, guy's got 10 or so offers, schools that he's, comfortable. He thinks this is his level. Does he keep going to the camps? Does he keep doing these different things? Or do you just focus on those schools and training and doing whatever?
Look, if you can play, you can play. I mean, you're talking about, like, do I have these offers and they may be fraudulent and I don't want anyone to know that they're fraudulent? Hey, maybe take it and run and take your college debt and make sure you make a lot of friends in college, so you can have a good business career when you're done, and maybe make as much as you would have had you played in the NFL anyway. But my point is if you're a high profile recruit, you could go to camps at your 3 favorite schools and work with that position coach and use that as an evaluation tool. Like, all right, I'm an offensive lineman, and I'm looking at Notre Dame, Alabama, and Ohio State. And I just gave 3 schools that produce mad offensive linemen. Oklahoma, we'll throw in 4. How do I vibe with that coach? How do I like being taught by him? I just worked with him for 2 days, and he did we mesh? Did I like the way he taught?
Okay.
That's a way you can use it as an evaluation tool. Now, I understand that not many people do that, and that's not realistic. I'm just saying you don't have to shut it down. And like college camps, I'm talking about college camps. That's good coaching. Those guys are getting paid a ton of money for that profession. You can always learn something at 17 or 18 years old to make you better at that age. You are not Orlando Pace, or you are not Randy Moss, or you are not Eddie George. Like you can learn something still at that age. But I really think that's something that
keeps it going. So forget your message. You can go never too early to go, and never stop going. Keep going to these camps. All right, switching gears a little bit to the big thing out there, COVID. How has that impacted recruiting? But most states played. Some states didn't play. 2 notables, Illinois and California. I think Virginia didn't play, right? I don't really know the states outside of California and Illinois, but I think there's like 4 or 5 states that didn't play. How was that impacting it? And then, how is just in general COVID impacting the whole recruitment platform?
Well, it's been terrible for the kids that can't play from a recruiting standpoint, purely from the sense that there's no film for you to be evaluated, and that's where everybody's process starts. And so for kids that are going into their junior year, it sucks. It really sucks. I can't. You're handicapped by not being able to play when 41 other states played, and kids can watch those other young men's film and fall in love with those guys. And you didn't get a chance to lay it down, and maybe it was going to be a breakout year for you. It should be a year where everyone elevates their game anyway. I feel bad for the kids. It doesn't mean it's over. You still get another. You're hopefully about to play and whatnot. But I'm just like, I went to the Edgy Tim showcase, the Edgy Tim MLK showcase, and there were a lot of interesting prospects there that had good showings that don't have any junior film. So what do you do with that if you're a college coach and you're trying to figure out who to take to make sure you win 10 football games? It's
Mhm.
not easy to rely. It's not easy to go on the Illinois kid when you saw the kid from Indiana play great, or the kid from Ohio check all your boxes, or the kid from Tennessee. So it handicapped those kids, and it was very unfortunate that they weren't able to play. And I feel bad for them. And I'm not a guy that feels sorry for people typically, because I think that oftentimes you can feel a little too sorry for yourself. But it's just it wasn't fair. It wasn't fair to those
No, it's tough.
kids.
It
And
was
there's so
tough, and
many
Illinois
programs.
made it real tough because some kids left, right? And then they were telling kids, if you leave, you can't come back. So now kids couldn't even really remedy the situation without fear. So I think Illinois IHSA really should be ashamed of themselves for how they handled the situation. Now, if we do have a season, we do the other 6 games. I would hope that the colleges are just going to look at that film and just say, all right, well, now we
For
just beat
sure,
you up.
and they will.
There's no on
But
campus. And the spring season evaluation is killed anyway. So
they
you kind
will.
of.
The spots are filling up. They
Mhm.
will. Spots are filling up, and then but so you're gonna play 6 games in the spring, and then turn around and
I
then
know.
play. Or it's just not. This is a contact sport, man, and I
I know.
understand your kids, but I don't like that either. They could
I
have
don't like it at
played.
all.
They could have played, but they.
We should have played, and now the COVID numbers are worse, and we're going to play. So now it's like everyone's got COVID now. Every time I look up, somebody else has got COVID, and so now they're like trying to just kind of follow through. So let's go play. I think it's 5 or 6 games each. Not wait, whatever. Let's just get the games in, treat it like spring ball. We're not playing for championships. We're just playing to be playing. Get some film for these kids. Get some development. Get ready for a fall season. But you're right; it's a lot of hitting
You got to
every
play
year.
the hand you're dealt, but man, like even your son, like what if your son would have went out there and had 1,500 yards receiving and put
Hmm.
up a monster year, showed elite ball skills, and
Hmm.
showed more growth from sophomore to junior year again. Like your son is one of the lucky ones to have the opportunities he has,
Yeah.
But
Yeah, we're definitely
at
not
least
whining and
maybe have
complaining
more.
about that, but there's some kids out there that grew. I think the biggest thing is a lot of kids just grew. There's some
For
kids that I've
sure.
seen you guys do
They
some write-ups
developed.
on.
They worked for
Bostic,
sure.
Jacob Bostic. I don't know if you remember Jacob
I
Bostic, but
saw him at the thing.
yeah,
Saw him at the thing.
yeah,
And
he
hey, if you
grew
would have
like
called it
4 inches,
shifted,
5 inches. So he went from a guy that you're not whatever to now like freak top end guy. Then there's Jalen Johnson, another kid I know that you've written up about. He's enormous now, right? He grew in a year, but it's like that's what happens junior year. So that's unfortunate. But I think these kids are good enough, and they've both since got offers, so they're going to get stuff, and I think it'll write itself. Well, I'm looking at. I don't know if you're hearing that with this extra year of eligibility. So now what are these colleges going to do, right? So in the 2000 next year, you don't really notice it because the seniors are extra or whatever. But in 2025, I figured out that you're going to have all the 20s and the 21s will all be ending their eligibility. So you're going to have 85 scholarships, but you're going to have potentially 40 to 50 seniors, right? So now who do you think is going to get the brunt of that, the 22s or the 24s? Is it going to trickle down, or you think they're going to kind of smack the kids here? I've been hearing guys are only taking 11, 12 guys this year, 13
I
guys.
haven't given it much thought. I know that
Hmm.
there were, my colleague Bud Elliott said there were like 450 less LOIs signed this cycle than the previous cycle.
Hmm.
So
So they're
we're
already
already,
trying to trim a little fat here and there and see
yeah.
whatever.
I would just stay out of the portal unless I'm a no-brainer. I'm making if
That's
I'm
my
not
next
happy,
question that you teed up. So
give me my degree. If you want my scholarship, give me my degree. Don't
yeah.
give
So
up
how do you think the
kids. Do
portal is
not
going to?
give up the free degree, man. I'm telling you. I know you got dreams. I know you got dreams, and you can chase them. You still got time to chase them all. But
Mhm.
chances are, the school that you're transferring to is not going to give you a better degree than the school you're at.
Probably not, and they're probably not going to give you a better shot. They don't have as much vested in you because you called them. What I mean, you're like, all right, your second time, so it's like they'll throw it out there. So I like the grad transfer. You can go get yourself a graduate degree and become a part of 2 alumni bases. I
Love
think
it.
that's a good thing. I think this transfer rule coming up, it's gonna do more bad than good because I think people are going to be
Well,
less. People had to make a decision in my day when you transferred. You had to give up a year of eligibility to transfer, so you really had to think long and hard before you did it.
it
And
was
not
a
that
rule
I
that really protected the athlete. It
from
was a rule,
themselves.
but from himself. But that's not the world we live in anymore.
Mm-mm.
People think that it's not fair for coaches to jump and athletes to not be able to jump too. And I certainly understand that point.
Yeah.
And for the chosen select smaller group,
Hmm.
that is definitely true, and it's not fair. But man, for so many of you that are just not happy early on, oh man, the grass is definitely not greener elsewhere.
It's tough. I mean, but then you got to also factor in a lot of these kids are going to schools now that they've committed and they've signed and they're going to report to a school and that'll be the first time they've ever been to that school because of COVID. If you don't have the means and you weren't a guy who went and did the camps or whatever, so there's going to be a lot of people that get there and be like, "Wow, I didn't know it was this cold in Minnesota or Michigan or whatever." Or "Wow, this sucks. I hate this team" or whatever. So there's going to be a lot of it.
Yeah, but you that's raised kids now and been through some adversity in life, just as a natural human being, like, is that like a real, like, is that adversity like if you tough out that 19, 20-year-old adversity, you're probably going to be the husband and father you want to be down the road is kind of my point, right?
You're right. A lot of these kids, though, they're from an AAU society where they switch at halftime. Their football teams, they've been on 10 or 15 different teams. I always try to pride myself on trying to keep my son on as few teams as possible and deal with some of the adversity you had to go through. Luckily, people listening might say Cry Me River because he's been on really great teams. But at the same time, try to fight through some of that stuff and try to make it, get through some of those tough situations because these kids are so quick to just say, forget it, I'm out. All right, I'm not working. Quarterback's a little different. Quarterback is a little different because, if the guy's your age or you're older and he's starting and he's doing well, you want to sit there and pray that he breaks his ankle. That's tough. But other positions, you'll find your way on the field.
Unfortunately, sometimes it's the people around the kid, though, that's telling him he's got to leave.
Oh, yeah.
So they're just not getting good advice. And hey, sometimes a kid does need to leave. It's not the situation was toxic or whatever what have you for a number of different reasons. I just think that you have leverage to get your degree for free with no college debt, and then you're still young to make your next move, man.
Mm-hmm. Well, Steve, one thing I want to do because I know your days is booked up solid, just like mine. So I looked, doing a little research. I looked at you. You have a 90. Look at this, an all-time crystal ball pick percentage of 90%. 2020 was no different. You were almost at 92%. How the hell are you getting it so accurate? I can't predict where my son's going to go to school. How do you predict everything so well?
Picking for the Wildcats, Northwestern.
Is that where you picked? Is that what the prediction you had?
I don't have one in yet. I mean, I think it's a combination of things. Just being able to. I mean, I love meeting people and talking to people and getting their viewpoints on things and feeling out their personalities. And I can normally from that be able to say, all right, this is the one. Like, I think that I can kind of piece it together of what
90% is fantastic. I couldn't believe it when I looked at this morning. I'm like, you're picking 9 because sometimes I see the crystal ball things and I'm like, whatever, dude. How do they people know?
Well, that's a lot of volume picks too. But you can kind of get a sense for where a young man's leaning and feeling, by talking to them and seeing what they're up to and who they're talking to the most and who they're visiting and who they like and kind of make a pick.
And a lot of it I think is the schools doing too. You get a lot of offers and just for those people out there listening and see, your kid might get a bunch of offers and do whatever, but I'll tell you that offer means something, but at the end of the day, it's going to dwindle and that list is going to get down to a few schools that he is talking to every week and who he thinks he likes in sophomore year if he's an early offer kid and who he thinks he likes in junior year may not be the same school because you're going to start feeling like this school loves you. When you see the love, you're going to love them back, love who loves you. So I can see where you're going. You can just kind of see the energy and the kind of the momentum of filtering that kid and getting in that situation. But that's a pretty good percentage. We need to go to Vegas or something, see if we can start.
I wish it worked in that realm because I would just go to Vegas a few times and then retire.
Yeah. So you've been nice enough for me to let, introduce you to a couple people along the way. What would you say to a parent out there that, their kid's getting recruited, they kind of don't understand, they're a little lost, and they're looking for guidance? Like, where do you go to kind of get that guidance? Luckily, I've been able to help a few people through connections I've had. But, if you're that kid from, Farmtown, Tennessee, and doesn't know much and whatever, and they're just trying to get an idea of how to, like, absorb this, what would you say to that parent?
And has their process already started?
Process is starting. They're kind of, the kid's getting some success. My wife had a family last year where their kid was exploding. I can't remember the kid's name. I should tell you. He's out of Indianapolis. His first 3 games were like 300 yards rushing, each game. And she's like, I don't know. What do I do? I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know how to handle this. There's like no guidance. So, where do those people go to it? They go to a recruiting service, try to work with them. Do they go to
start with your high school coach? Look, parents have been helping their kids pick colleges for eternity. You don't need any new best friends now that there's a football element in the mix. I understand that adds another layer for yourself, but you don't need any outside help to get you to the finish line. And, those aren't actually my words. The legendary coach at Good Counsel High said that to me once. He's like, I don't counsel my players on where they can go. He coached like Stephon Diggs and some of those guys. He's like, they don't need a new best friend now that they have a bunch of offers. Their parents they can figure this out themselves. If you're at a smaller school that doesn't get a lot of foot traffic, I would start with the colleges closest to home and trying to get them to watch the film, which they probably would want to because it's close to home. So if you live in Fort Wayne, Indiana, you want to get it all out to the mid-majors. And the Big Ten schools pay attention to who the mid-majors offer, and go from there. And so go to the local camps, tear it up. Try and get on a 7-on-7 team that can give you some exposure. That can always help. That helped our receiver that didn't get a chance to play this year in Illinois. He's on the Midwest Boom. He's looked terrific. He looked terrific at the Edgy Team EFT Showcase. He's got a ton of buzz for himself. So all those.
Which kid are we talking about here? Steve Bostic, is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, Jacob Bostic.
Yeah, Jacob Bostic.
Yeah. So all that can help.
So on the other side of it, when do you suggest these kids commit? Cautionary tale, I've seen more than one kid in the Chicago area that I know that have tried to commit to a school and the kids wouldn't take their commitment because I think maybe they waited a little too long. You're kind of a nice to have kid and do whatever.
You need to have a grasp of what offers you have and how many they're taking. If you're an elite guy, you can wait till the end. If you're just a regular receiver with 12 offers, I'd make sure I knew how many all 12. I'd make sure how many receivers all 12 of my offers were taken, and I would go, and I'd be keeping track if I wasn't ready to go, because you can get left out. It doesn't mean you weren't good enough; just means you weren't ready enough. Another young man was. So you got to keep track of those. How many are you recruiting? You're taking 3 receivers. All right.
Okay, and I want to be one of them.
I know that I need to be one of the 3 if this is where I want to go.
What if you're a guy that right now you're going into your junior year, Chicago guy specifically, you got a lot of MAC offers. You really think you're a Power 5 guy. I mean, no one wants to suggest for someone to renege, but do you grab one of these MAC guys and get a date to the dance?
Yeah.
I mean, is that going to scare off the Power 5 guys, or they're going to come anyway?
Nope. If anything, get yourself a room at the inn, and if you get some new information later, evaluate it. You made your decision based on the information you had. If you get new information later, no one's going to be mad at you for evaluating.
And the new school that wants you is not going to be mad that you did it. The only people who are going to get mad are the people from the other school. And
they may not even do that. They'd probably take a job at the school you were switching to.
Absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, hey, I took an hour of your day today. I really appreciate your time. It's super informative. People requested that I had you out here, so I had to go ahead and deliver on that request. If anyone wants to get on your radar or contact you, is there a channel they should go to? Should they just follow you on Twitter?
247 Sports, S Wiltfong 247. Sorry, this is a snow day here. It's been chaos. If I would have turned this camera around, Reggie, it would have been nuts.
I love it. I got a bunch of, actually mine are a little older, so they're quiet in their room hiding so that I don't make them go out there and show. So I get it. But man, I really appreciate you, man, making time for the show again. Hopefully I can have you on again closer to the signing day for the 22s. I can't wait to see what your crystal ball prediction is and see if it's anything like mine is for my son, though.
Take care, man. Have a good one.
Thank you, sir. Take care.